The story of Turkana is a story of resilience, a tale written in the vast sun-scorched landscapes of Kenya's North Rift. For generations, the people here have lived by the rhythm of the seasons, their lives intertwined with their precious livestock. In this arid land, cattle are more than just animals. They are a bank, a symbol of status, and the currency of life's most important transactions, like paying a bride price. Cattle rustling, in its original form, was a part of this cultural fabric. It was a rite of passage for young warriors, a way to replenish herds after a drought, and was governed by strict traditional rules passed down by elders. It was rarely a deadly affair, more of a test of bravery and skill. But oh, how things have changed. The traditions that once held communities together have been shattered, replaced by a new and terrifying reality. The cattle rustling of yesteryear has morphed into a brutal, commercialized form of banditry. The wooden staffs and spears of the past have been swapped for the cold, hard steel of automatic weapons, like the AK-47. These firearms, smuggled across porous borders from conflict zones in South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia, have flooded the region. It's estimated that hundreds of thousands of illegal guns are now in civilian hands, turning pastoralist rivalries into deadly, militarized conflicts that leave a trail of devastation. What was once a community affair, overseen by respected elders, has now been hijacked by faceless, powerful figures. These are the new actors in this deadly drama, financiers and political players who operate from the shadows. They fund the acquisition of weapons and ammunition, orchestrating large-scale raids not for cultural prestige, but for cold, hard cash. The stolen cattle are quickly moved through sophisticated networks, their brands altered, and they are sold in distant markets, far from the grieving families they were stolen from. The profits line the pockets of these criminals, fueling an endless cycle of violence and bloodshed that benefits a powerful few. The transformation is stark and deeply unsettling for the people of Turkana. The traditional authority of the elders has been completely eroded, their wisdom drowned out by the sound of gunfire. They can no longer mediate disputes or enforce the old rules of engagement. Instead, the region is at the mercy of heavily armed, organized criminal gangs who show no respect for life or tradition. This evolution from a regulated cultural practice into a violent, profit-driven enterprise marks a dark chapter for the North Rift, one that has rewritten the rules of survival and left communities living in constant fear for their lives and their livelihoods. At the very heart of this escalating violence lies a desperate struggle for survival. The North Rift is a land of scarcity, where life-giving resources like water and pasture are precious and finite commodities. The changing climate has only made things worse, bringing more frequent and severe droughts that parch the earth and shrink the grazing lands. When the rivers run dry and the grass withers away, pastoralist communities are forced to move in search of sustenance for their herds. This movement inevitably leads them into the territories of other communities, sparking fierce competition and deadly clashes over what little remains. This is not just a fight for cattle, it is a fight for existence itself. This desperate scramble for resources is cynically exploited by political actors. Banditry in the North Rift is rarely just about cattle, it is fundamentally a political tool. Some local elites have been accused of inciting violence and arming militias to advance their own agendas. They may seek to displace rival communities from resource-rich areas or to manipulate voting patterns during elections by forcing entire populations to flee their homes. This practice, sometimes called vote shipping, ensures that electoral outcomes are skewed in their favor. The result is a toxic mix where community grievances are weaponized for political gain, making lasting peace an almost impossible dream. Compounding these issues is a long and painful history of state neglect. Since colonial times, when the region was designated a closed area, Turkana and its neighbors have been systematically marginalized. Decades of underinvestment have left the area with poor infrastructure, few schools, and limited economic opportunities beyond pastoralism. The pastoral economy itself, despite being valued at over $1 billion and contributing significantly to Kenya's GDP, has seen very little government support. This chronic marginalization has created a deep sense of abandonment, and fostered an environment where illegal activities like banditry can thrive as one of the few viable, albeit violent, paths to wealth. The creation of county boundaries under the 2013 devolved system of government introduced yet another layer of conflict. While intended to bring resources closer to the people, these new administrative lines have, in some cases, formalized divisions and restricted the traditional fluid migration routes that pastoralists have used for centuries. Suddenly, a grazing area that was once shared becomes the exclusive property of one county, sparking new disputes. For the communities of Turkana, these overlapping drivers, fierce resource competition, political manipulation, historical neglect, and rigid new borders have created a perfect storm of conflict that continues to claim lives and tear the social fabric apart. Faced with an escalating crisis that was spiraling out of control, the Kenyan government decided it was time to act decisively. In February 2023, it launched a massive security intervention named Operation Maliza Uhalifu, which translates to Operation End Crime. This was not just another police action. It was a full-scale deployment involving the Kenya Defence Forces, working alongside the National Police Service. 6 counties in the North Rift, including Turkana, were declared disturbed and dangerous, giving security forces sweeping powers. The government also imposed strict dusk-to-dawn curfews and began recruiting local National Police reservists, hoping their community knowledge would provide a tactical advantage against the elusive bandits. The immediate impact of the operation was significant and brought a sense of relief to many embattled communities. The heavy presence of security personnel acted as a powerful deterrent. According to security reports, the results were dramatic. Across the 6 targeted counties, incidents involving pastoralist militias dropped by more than 50% within the first year. In Turkana County specifically, the change was even more profound, with banditry-related violence plummeting by over 90% in 2023. The relentless attacks that had become a daily feature of life began to subside, offering a fragile glimmer of hope that normalcy could one day return. The operation also had a measurable effect on the core business of the bandits' livestock theft. Official figures released in late 2024 painted a clear picture of success in this area. The number of stolen animals across the bandit-prone regions dropped from over 63,000 in 2023 to just under 24,000 in 2024. Furthermore, the security forces were able to recover over 10,000 of these stolen animals, returning them to their rightful owners. This was a direct blow to the economic engine of banditry, disrupting the supply chains that the criminal enterprises relied upon. The message from the state was clear: the era of impunity was coming to an end. However, the success was not uniform, and the nature of the conflict began to shift. While violence decreased dramatically in Turkana, it saw a worrying spike in the neighboring West Pokot County toward the end of 2023, with attacks there being attributed to Turkana militias. This suggests that the security pressure may have displaced the problem rather than completely eradicating it, pushing armed groups to seek softer targets across county lines. It highlighted the complex cross-border nature of the conflict and showed that a county-by-county approach might not be enough to solve a deeply interconnected regional problem. The operation was a major step, but the battle was far from over. Despite the reduction in violence, the human cost of years of banditry remains immense and deeply felt. Hundreds of people have lost their lives, and thousands have been forced to flee their homes, leaving behind entire villages to be reclaimed by the bush. The psychological scars run deep, with many residents expressing a profound mistrust of both their neighbors and the state they feel has abandoned them for so long. Many describe the current calm not as genuine peace, but as a negative peace, a temporary absence of violence that fails to address the underlying causes of the conflict. This fragile quiet is haunted by the fear that the moment the soldiers leave, the killing will start again. The impact on education has been particularly devastating, stealing the future from an entire generation. Schools have been prime targets for attacks, forcing them to close and leaving children without a safe place to learn. At Kagir Primary School in a neighboring county, a head teacher was killed and the community scattered. By mid-2024, only a few families had returned, with over half the students unsure of their parents' whereabouts. Recognizing this crisis, the government, as part of its soft power approach, has begun rehabilitating 26 schools across the region. The goal is to restore a sense of normalcy and provide a pathway out of poverty and violence for the youth. Alongside security operations, the government and non-governmental organizations are working to build sustainable alternatives to a life of crime. This includes initiatives like introducing livestock branding to make stolen animals easier to trace and monitoring markets to disrupt the illegal trade. NGOs like Interpeace are providing vocational training to former militia members, teaching them skills in mechanics or carpentry. With education levels in the North Rift being the lowest in Kenya, a 2023 survey showed 35% of youth have never attended school. Creating new livelihood options is absolutely critical to breaking the cycle of violence for good. The road to lasting peace in Turkana is long and requires more than just boots on the ground. The challenge now is to move from a state of temporary security to one of genuine, sustainable peace. This will require a continued intelligence-led security presence, but more importantly, it demands a deep investment in addressing the root causes. It means resolving historical land grievances, investing in climate-resilient water and pasture management, creating real economic opportunities beyond pastoralism, and fostering political reconciliation. The guns may have fallen silent for now, but only by building trust, justice and opportunity can the people of Turkana truly end the war for their future.